Testing one, two, three. Testing one, two, three. This is Who Did You Boycott today? Hello to you folks. I'm doing my best to hold it together as I say a few words before I get back to my other work. I want to say right out of the gate, I apologize for women and girls growing up that hurt boys, and when they became an adult, the women that may have hurt another man or a male person. I apologize. I'm a big enough woman to apologize because I know most of us understand that none of us are perfect. But so I want that to be very clear before I say my other comments. I have lived to see 62 years old. Over that span of life, I've had relationships, and some I could say were turn out to hurt or disappointment, but I've always held on to the fact that in my heart, I'm only one person on this earth. But when I think about men and my brothers, I grew up with four brothers. I did not have a father. I'm old enough to know now that no one can take the place of my mother. But my father could have filled a void inside of me. And maybe somehow it would have made a difference in the relationships that I had with male and men persons as I grew up. I'm old enough to know how to evaluate that. And I don't hold any bitterness. I cannot go through this life and say I wish I didn't know my father. Of course, I wish I had known my father. I wish I had grown up with my father, that my father could have been in my life. But that didn't happen. I got blessed that with a special mother. Whatever her reasons were, I don't know what those reasons were. My brain, looking at my day to day life growing up, I can't answer the question as to why my father was not in my life. My mother know, and maybe she don't know. I don't know. She never talked about it. So I did not grow up with bitter feelings. My sister did. We are two different human beings. I can't say she's wrong because she had anger and I didn't have anger. Each human being is an individual. I cannot say enough for how much I honor my mother. As I went through my life experience and listened to other persons around me, I long since realized I really got lucky to have a strong mother that had to be mother and father. She had to be mother and father. And I think from my perspective and from my lived experience, it was a job well done. Did she get everything right? No. No person on this earth gets everything right. So, oh, and before I get started, I meant to say men and women have to live together. That's the way the earth is made, that women and men have to live together and respect each other and learn to live together. Some will learn to love each other and some will not. Some will go through life hurting one another. When I think back to my growing up years, I went through five engagements, five engagements before I got married. I could have been bitter. I could have been bitter to no end. I went back over those relationships and tried to understand what could I learn from them. For the most part, I know that my military career played a major part of separation, but we both more than likely had a lot of growing to do and a lot to learn about each other. So I cannot blame just the military that caused the separation. So, with that said, I clearly know in my lifetime how much I have loved men and the relationships, good or bad, that I have experienced in my lifetime. It breaks my heart to hear women and men hurling insults to each other constantly. There are constant insults hurled back and forth to each other. I remember when I went to my first assignment at Fort Myers, Virginia. A couple of us girls kind of formed together in little groups, and we would get up each day and come together and talk. And I noticed right away that most of the conversation was about men, and this person had this to say, and that person had that to say. And I quickly realized I was not supposed to be a part of those conversations. So I removed myself from them. And from then on, I never allowed myself to be a part of those conversations. Yes, it's important for women to be able to talk to each other and share lived experience as far as their relationships with other male persons. Some women, they need that interaction with another woman or another male. So, with that said, I'm going to talk about the two gentlemen whose name is in my title. I popped into their room anonymous last night, and I have done it a couple of times. And the person with the great debate, that man seems to constantly open a room every single day, and every other word is BICTH about women. I don't understand how any woman can sit in a Twitter space and hear one man after another man come off the microphone and say BICTH every other word. Well, I made a recording. I made a recording, and I'm going to decide what I'm going to do with it. But my main reason for popping on here before I get back to work, because today I'm working on the Pan Africans. Today I'm putting them on blast for using the word hate. They are in my line of fire today. But the men, as I started to say, I made my apologies for women. I'm speaking from a woman perspective. I am apologizing for the women. I have never met every woman, but I can be big enough woman to apologize for women who have hurt other boys and men. But In my environment that I grew up with, I've always understood I cannot put myself in a man's shoe. Let me quickly say that up front. I have no clue what a lived experience is like for a man. My understanding is that men have always been on the front line. They have always been the target. My little brain, growing up and starting to like boys and later on becoming an adult, I've always thought that men are the lead. They are the lead in the community. The woman is only going to do and act depending on the lead that the man put in front of that woman. Whether they're a little boy in elementary, or no, a little girl in elementary, or junior high school, or high school, that girl is going to go by your lead. If you put out that you are not going to accept a bad behavior, they're gonna make correction. I can tell you myself as a woman. I can't speak for every woman, but I can tell you if that little boy do not give that little girl attention when they don't respect themselves, oh, they're gonna make correction. You can bet your bottom dollars on that, cause they want your attention. That's a natural attraction. That woman wants your attention. That little girl wants your attention in elementary. They want your attention in junior high school. They want your attention in high school on into an adult. So if you let that woman know that you like her to wear tight shorts or short shorts, she's gonna wear them. If you give the signal to that woman that you want her to let her breasts hang out, she's going to buy clothes with her breasts hanging out. She's going to do that. If she builds a reputation of sleeping around, she's got that signal from someone because she cannot, well, let me correct myself, but I'm going to say this anyway, even though it's a lot more to it. A woman cannot have sex by herself as far as the male. In these days that we live in today, I can't even get those words out of my mouth. They have things have changed so much. So, but I think you can get what I'm trying to say. That if that woman wants to have inter- intimacy with another male and not use other methods, I guess you can call it, then she's going to want the approval of that male. So if the man have to take the lead, I guess that's the main point I want to hammer home in these comments that I'm making. Nothing is really going to change in the community unless the men, excuse me, understand they take the lead. It's not fair for it to be on the men's shoulder like that, but that's life. Women should call out women. I have tried to do my best to do that when I started being a part of these social media apps on Clubhouse. I do not be around a lot of women, so I don't get an opportunity a lot of the time to hear women going off on men. But sometimes I do be in rooms, very few, I can say without a shadow of a doubt. And I have called it out on my broadcast. Now, as far as when what I have observed from the women in these social rooms is they seem to be allowed to go off and curse men out at will. I don't know when they started doing that. I really don't have a clue as to when that started happening. Who gave women the green light to do that? Because persons that I associate with in my day to day life over my lifespan, I have never been around women that do that. So I'm completely in the dark. I am completely in the dark because I will not be around a woman who will not respect a man. So we are where we at. Here we are. We have got here by some means. We find ourselves in a world that constantly beat each one of us down in different ways. We were born into a sick environment and we are constantly being beat down to the ground. By the time we get done with each other, the enemy don't have to do very much to take us out because we don't woe each other down by our own assault. We wake up and we go year by year assaulting each other. By the time we walk out into the world, we pretty much beat down. I didn't have to experience that. I didn't have to experience that, fortunately, because I was not allowed to have boyfriends growing up. So I didn't have to go through those painful early childhood relationships. Now I snuck around and tried to have. I rem- I I'm not no pristine person. I did sneak around and have one or two boyfriends that my mother never found out about. Thank God I'm still alive. But so I pretty much missed most of it because the fear of my mother put enough fear in me that I didn't want to go down that road. So I only braved it a couple times. And then I said, no, I'm not going to go through that. And I left it alone. But my emotions did not change. I just had to keep them intact. And so we didn't have all of that temptation. We didn't have TV. We didn't have internet. We didn't have the phone. So we didn't have all of that extra things to tempt us. So that played a major role. So there were many different variables that played a role in n- some of us not going down that road. But I certainly remember a very close friend growing up that got pregnant before they got out of high school. I my heart broke for her. I never forget when the person that I had grew up with and we knew each other quite well and we were the same age to know that she had gotten pregnant before finishing high school. I couldn't imagine what her life was going to be like. I remember when I got pregnant, I knew I had to. I said to myself, Aquilin, you don't need a man. And the very second it came out of my mouth, I knew I was putting up a defense. That thought never went through my head again as long as I have been on this earth. For a very brief second, I allowed that thought to go through my head and I corrected myself on the spot. I knew at that very moment that I was putting up a defense for the next 18 years of responsibility that I had to take on. So, like I said, all of us make mistakes. None of us are perfect, but nothing is really going to change for the next generation, the young babies and the young teens that are watching each of us adults. They are watching us every single day. What kind of example are we setting for them? They are watching everything that we do. There's enough blame to go around. We clearly know that. We are going to continue to point the finger back at the other person. That's not going to solve anything. We have to mature and do self evaluation honestly, because each one of us know our true character. May, only maybe your mother and father are the only two persons on this earth that may know you better than yourself. My mother told me that, and it was so true that I had to learn to know myself because it was not anyone else's responsibility to know me better than I knew myself. I know my character flaws, I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses. That's my job to do. That's my job to look in the mirror at my baddest things about myself that I don't want to show the world. But I also have to be willing to work on that. I don't get to just run out into the world and do as I please because no matter what I do or what I say, I need to be the best version of myself that I can be. That's my number one job. Respect myself and love myself. And that's going to take me looking deep inside of myself every day I get up. Because as you grow and experience life, pretend like I don't love, that I don't see the bad things about myself. I have to be able to see the bad and the good. I don't get to lie to myself. So I mainly wanted to say, I hope that the men can point out to women in a respectful way if they are disrespecting men. If they continue to do it, just don't talk to them no more. They'll get the message. We'll get the message if that man says, I'm not going to interact with you if you do not show me respect, and I'm not going to talk to you anymore. If you keep on talking to me, you are going to be talking to the wind, and the wind is not going to give that woman a reply. So she's either going to make that self correction or she's going to avoid you because that woman will not enjoy talking to the wind. So she's going to make up her mind one way or the other whether she's going to show you respect or she's not. If she chooses not to show you respect, then she's going to have to part ways or she's going to have to sit there or stand there and talk to the wind. Our men are too important. Every day that they are on this earth, our men are too important. have to take on so much. They are on the front lines when you go to war. They're not in a hurry to put women on the front lines in war. They have to deal with the constant attack from this sick environment that they and all of us were born into. I can't even begin to try to imagine what life is like for a male person. I know it was no way like a woman. There has been along the way, women have had doors open for them simply because they are a woman. Some of these women let it go to their head. As I grew up and started going through life, I seen those doors be open for woman, for a woman. And I knew it wasn't fair, but I didn't turn a blind eye to it. I didn't pretend like it did not happen. I didn't just put my head in the sand and say, oh, I'm just going to think about me. As long as the doors keep opening for me because I'm a female or a woman, then all is right in the world. No, my brain don't operate that way. I stand back and sit back and observe. America has always made it a easier path for women, and I don't understand and I cannot step into the shoes of other women. They have to make that self correction themselves. But those women who are around that person have to point that out. If you are associating with a woman who is showing disrespect to men and you are that person's friend or associate or in the inner circle, that's your responsibility to point that out to that other woman. If you don't have the backbone to do that, then you're going to have to be willing to suffer the consequences. Life is about consequences. Life is about decisions. And when you make those decisions, they can either be positive or negative. And a lot of times it's going to come with consequences. So I have always spoken this way to other women. This is not something that just popped into my head this morning. Anytime any woman have been around me, I have always spoken this way. Anyone would tell you that who know me. I will not tolerate a woman who don't know how to check herself and be respectful. You have to respect yourself before you can ever respect anyone else. If I evaluate that you don't know how to respect yourself, then I know how to go in the opposite direction of you. I know how to part ways with you. And I've done it a many a times over my life. So that woman has to be put in check. Why that didn't happen, why that woman was growing up, I don't know. But I was taught to be respectful growing up. First, like I said, I was taught to respect myself and to definitely respect the men in my community, to respect my brothers. So I thought that was just a common thing that each and person understood. I thought that was a no brainer that each of us are taught that growing up. I just assumed that that was the case until I started growing up after 18 and walking out into the world and having a beginning my life experience in the real world, not the little shelter world that I was in growing up between 1 and 18. That was a nice little comfortable sheltered world. But it became real when it was time to walk out in that real world and grow into an adult. So I just hope that I am not here to put the blame on men. I'm here simply to state from a woman perspective, and I'm speaking for one person, that men in my little brain have always been the lead. They have always been the lead. They have always been the fighters. They have always been on the front line. That's how I seen my brothers. They gave their baby sister confidence and protection. I can't thank them enough. So when I grew up, I walked out the door and knew that my brothers were never going to let anyone hurt me. And they never did. That was a blessing, that I could grow up and go outside and act the fool. As long as I didn't act the fool too bad, they were going to always be there to protect me. And they did that for me. So my oldest brother was the head of the household because the father was missing. So I don't quite understand why I have to click on a Twitter title and hear two or three men constantly saying BICTH almost every other word. What if a teenager is listening anonymous? What kind of example is that setting? If I can click on my phone and listen anonymous, then a person who is younger than 18 can also do that. So I clearly understand that men have their anger, and their anger is for good reason. Whatever happened between they self and that woman, or that little girl and when they were a boy, I don't know what that was. But it comes a time that you have to repair or come to an understanding to let go of that hurt. I feel very lucky that I did not harbor any bitter feelings of any of the male relationships that I experienced. I got very lucky there, but I had to work on myself to get there. It wasn't a walk in the park. Some of those relationships did cause pain and hurt, and I did get angry, but I worked through it. Did I get everything right? No, I did not. But I did my best to look back and try to learn from each relationship that I had. I wanted to take away the positives and understand the negatives. So I simply want men to understand how important it is that they are valued, they set the lead, and that woman is only going to follow what lead that male person put out. That's what's going to happen, because I clearly understand that, because I am a woman. And if you want, and I know men want the community to be strong and productive and healthy, well, they will clean up their act if the man lay it down. If they lay down the rules, then that woman is going to straighten up herself because she want that man attention. She want that man affection. She want that man approval. With this crazy world that we live in, that's the one thing that the woman want. That's one of the top priorities while they here on this earth. At least for the ones I got I got to correct myself again. At least for the ones who are heterosexual, I guess I must say, but I cannot speak for other women. And I do not look down on LGBTQ. I respect every human being. I go out my way to make sure that I try to make sure I show every person that I interact with respect. So it's critical, it's very, very crucial that the men understand that one critical thing that will certainly start the healing process, hopefully, and start the building process for the next generation, for the younger generations who are younger than 30 and 20 years old, and those that will be born in the future. Everything hinges on that male. I'm going to say again, it's unfortunate that it have to be put on the male shoulder, but that just comes with being a male. That woman, she's not built like a man. She cannot handle most women, let me correct myself. Most women cannot handle the kind of pressure that men can handle. Their body is built different. Yes, some women think they can be as strong as men. I'm not one of those. But I clearly have lived in the world and I have come across a few women, quite a few women, who think they can do everything that a man can do. I'm not going to sit up here and pretend like I have not crossed paths with women who think that way, that they feel they can compete in every way that a man can compete. Well, I'm just not going to pretend like I believe that because I don't. The main reason why I don't believe that is because a male and a female was created. If the woman and the man was meant to do the same thing, it wouldn't have been necessary to create a man and a woman. If they were put on this earth to be able to do the same thing, I don't think it would have been necessary to create a male and a female. So that's what I say to the women who have all this commitment and conviction to women's live. That's the best answer I can give them, and they still will be offended. But life goes on. I'm not going to change my understanding because that's plain old common sense that a baby is born into the world, a male or a female. And those two human beings were not meant to do the same thing. And that's just plain old life. And so I'm going to continue to emphasize the man, the male person, they set the lead. That woman will follow. Whatever lead you give her, if you put respect at a high priority, they are going to have to decide whether or not they respect themselves. And once they answer that question, then you're going to know whether or not they have the ability to respect you in return. But you have to demand that. That has to be demanded from the man. That woman has the responsibility as she's growing up to learn to respect herself. But if she has not learned that, by the time she interact with you, that is when that male person is going to have to lay down the rules, and that woman is going to have to decide whether she's going to follow that or not. But she's going to take your lead. More times than not, that woman is going to take your lead. She's going to follow that lead. If you turn a blind eye and don't put respect at a high priority, then she's not going to more than likely put it at a high priority. Then sometimes you will meet women who do put it at a high priority, and then the man don't put it at a high priority. And then in that case, that woman may decide to go the opposite direction. It's a give and take. It's a mutual respect. It's a give and take. It's a mutual respect. But the woman can never take the place of the man's role. That's why they get down on their knees and propose, because they have the lead. Otherwise, I think folks would have grew up knowing that women got down on their knees and proposed. But my understanding is that's the role of the male. They the one that get down on the knees and propose because they have the lead role. They have been designated with that lead role. They have to put their life on the line for their community. They have to put their life on the line for war. That's just a natural role that men have. And they need all the support from the woman every step of the way. Hopefully, that child that's born into the world will have the influence of both the father and the mother. The father and the mother cannot have the same role. The father will have a role, and the mother will have a role in shaping that child as they grow up and develop into a productive, happy human being with God given abilities. That's how I was able to evaluate why I did not feel angry about my father being absent from my life. I made a logical evaluation that that child, they need both parents for that child to be whole. But sometimes in life it don't work out that way. But every effort needs to be made for that child to have both influence, because I can speak to that. That child is going to grow up more than likely with an empty hole. That that role my mother could never fill. As special as my mother was, she can never fill the role of the father. That's gonna always leave an empty void inside of me until I die. I clearly had to evaluate that to come to an understanding about it and make peace with it and not let it eat at me. It wasn't a easy journey, but I went through it in my own time and at my own pace until I got to an understanding that I could be at peace with. But that's where that's where that little boy comes into play when they when that boy and girl are in elementary and those butterflies start flying between each other. If both the boy and the girl do not have the guidance and the parenting from the father and mother, each one is probably going to get a lot of things wrong. They're going to more than likely end up hurting each other. They're going to just end up hurting each other because those little butterflies start flying and they don't know what to do with it. They just want to act on it. They in elementary and they look over the way and they see a little girl with her little ponytails and her little outfit on and they say I like that little girl. And that little girl say I like that little boy back. But 2 weeks later they may not like each other. They may dislike each other and call each other names 2 weeks later. And they continue to grow up and forget all about that interaction. But life goes on, and right then and there, that's when you know that the little girl is waiting on that boy to look at her and tell her whether he like her. So we can't get around it. We just cannot get around it. The girl, the little girl, starts out at a very young age wanting that little boy to look their way and tell that little girl, do they like her? So girl, that little girl is waiting on that little boy approval, and that continues on for the female. It it changes as what all person. So I just wanted to share that, and I hope that men will not take it the wrong way. That they have to take the lead. They have the burden of taking the lead. They have the burden of trying to protect their community, let alone their family. First, they have to protect themselves, they have to protect their family, and then the community look for them for protection. And then the world look for them to go to war and put their life on the line. It's a unimaginable responsibility that each male had to live with. I cannot put myself in their shoes. I have no clue what that life experience is like. But I I wake up every day and give thanks to my brothers who definitely were the first men that I had to grow up with. And they set a very, very positive example for me. And that is what shaped me and my understanding. So I have to give thanks to my brothers and my mother for helping me to grow up with a understanding of respect for my brothers and men as I grew up. If I did not have that positive example, maybe my thinking and my mindset would be different. But I was blessed with four strong brothers, and they helped me to grow up feeling very confident and protected. I would never be able to thank them enough. And so I continue as I grew up and grew into an adult. I went into the world thanking every man, every male person for them making the sacrifice every day of their life. I I've said it out loud so many times I can't count. I've said it to myself so many times I cannot count it. But women, need to do a better job of saying thank you to the men every day they get up. I hope us women can encourage each other and remind each other to say thank you. Whether you say it out loud or you show it with your action or you show it with the respect that you show men in your day to day life, I believe the men will be able to notice it. They will notice it and they will appreciate it. They deserve it. I don't know. I just cannot understand how things have gotten this bad. But then again, with the condition of the environment that each of us have had to experience in our own different ways, some of this was caused by the environment. But with that said, each one of us as adults, at some point, we have to take on that responsibility and say, what part do I play? And what part do I have control over? There's a lot of things in life we don't have control over. There's a lot of things in the environment that we live in that we don't have control over. But we have control over our individual self. That's one thing that we do have control over, our individual self, and how we respect ourselves and how we love ourselves. No one else gets to decide that for us, for our individual self. And so, as long as I remind myself of that, I try to make sure I do self correction and I do self evaluation constantly so that I don't let myself slip and not point out or recognize something about myself that I need to work on and try to improve. So I don't give myself a pass. No, every single day I'm going to be my hardest critic. No one else is going to be as hard on me as I will be on myself. That's my job. That's my number one job is to be able to be my own first critic and be able to self evaluate what I need to do to be the best version of myself that I can be, that I can always hold myself to a high standard of respect and love so that I can interact with others and extend that same in return. But I cannot do that if I don't know how to love myself, if I don't know how to respect myself. So I don't understand why, or about forgot one thing. Why women run around calling each other BICTH. That I almost left that out. That's another mental damage. I don't know when women started calling each other BICTH, but they need to correct that. And men can help out if they hear a woman saying that, whether they like it or not. Maybe you'll feel like pointing it out to them because someone, somewhere along the way, a mental damage, a mental disconnect took place. I don't know when it happened, but it took place because women seem to think that's a good thing. They think they are really saying something when they call each other BICTH. And I don't know how you process that mentally. I can't even try to go there. I really can't. I'm not going to sit up here and fake the funk. I cannot go there on that one. I'm in the dark. I am completely in the dark. I can't even speak on that. Okay, but I will call it out. Someone, someone needs to correct that. Women need to correct that pronto. And each one of you women who are doing it, you need to correct it. And if women don't correct it, I will hope that the men will not give them any attention and see how they make that change. But it shouldn't have to require the men for you to make that self correction. But if they don't know how to do it, men, you're going to have to help them maybe because we got to live together. We have to live together, and we do that by knowing, getting to know ourselves, and setting that positive example. We cannot coexist together. We cannot grow up and learn to love one another if we don't make the effort to set the positive example. And I think each of us love ourselves enough to do that. I fully, wholeheartedly believe that each one of us love our individual self enough to want to make that effort. And then hopefully we can start the healing process and the building block for a stronger foundation for the younger generation and those that will be born later. I think if we help one another come to that understanding, the enemy don't have anything to do with that. They're going to keep on doing their evil. They are going to keep on doing their evil until the world come to an end. But this other part, we have control of that. So I try to focus on what I personally have control over, and what I don't have control over, I try to minimize the impact of it. I simply separate the two. I try to identify those things that I do not have control over and do everything in my power to minimize the impact of it. Those things that I do have control over, then I want those things to have a positive impact on my day to day life and my growth and my development and my lived experience. That's something that I personally have control over every day I get up. So hopefully, what I have shared will have an impact on anyone that resonates with it. Someone did it for me. I'm not doing anything special. There were so many good persons that crossed my path and helped me to make my self correction. My mother gave me the foundation. My brothers and sisters helped me with that foundation. My community helped me with that foundation. And then the day came when I had to walk out into the world, and so many good persons talked to me and helped me to understand how to improve my individual self. I took a lot of advice from a lot of good individual persons who were setting that positive example, and I could see with my own two eyes that they were setting that positive example. So when they talked to me, I really took it serious. I may not have agreed with everything that they said to me, but I always made time to reflect on what they said to me. So I'm doing my best to return that same help and encouragement that so many good individual persons took the time to give me. I hope I can give back in that same way. So that's it for me, folks. Enjoy your day. Thank you kindly. These two gentlemen' name will stay in my title because they deserve to be in that title. I don't know if they're going to make that self correction, but I'm not going to sit back and listen to a man say BICTH every other word and not respond to it. I can't speak for any other woman, and I can't speak for any man that don't correct that woman who disrespect them. But who did you boycott? No, she don't disrespect men. And so I'm not going to accept other men saying things out of their mouth or setting the wrong example. I'm not going to tolerate that. I am going to move in the opposite direction of you, and I'm going to respond to it if I have time to do it. And so this is my response to the debater and that other male person by ugly. This is my personal response to them because I should not have to listen to men on a public app announcing to the whole world how much they respect women in their community, how much they respect their mother, how much they respect their wife, how much they respect their sister, how much they respect their aunt, which I can't imagine if they are constantly saying BICTH and blaming women for everything. I don't know how you get on a public app and embarrass yourself that way because you cannot sit on a public app for hours and hours and blame women for everything and call them BICTH. Why are you doing it? Something is mentally wrong there. Something is definitely mentally wrong, and I am not going to stay silent because I have to live in this world. Folks did never hesitate to correct me when I act a fool in front of them. I grew up in that type of environment. So I am not going to tolerate it. The, each male and man person have the responsibility to check their self and to be held accountable for their actions and their words. If they are not mature enough to hold themselves accountable, I am not going to sit silently by while they announce to the world their degenerate character. I'm not going to do that. America and the whole world work overtime to harm all persons with brown and dark brown skin every second of the day. They don't need my help and they don't need your help. I clearly know that America and the whole world don't need my help and they don't need your help. And so I'm not going to give them any help. And the way I'm not going to give them any help is by making sure that I hold my feet to the fire and check myself and keep my character at the highest standard at all times. Whether I'm on a public app or in person, I am going to always hold myself to a high standard. I'm not looking for the approval of anyone. The only person approval I am looking for is my individual self. But I definitely do not want to reflect a negative image on my community as a whole. I have an obligation not to reflect a negative image on my community. That's my responsibility. And I have to hold myself accountable to that. But some folks don't care about that. They prefer to get on a public app and blame women for everything. Now, if you are hearing women do that, because like I told you, I don't, I'm not around a lot of women. I made that decision at 18 that that was not the circle that was the right place for me. And I never looked back. I will always be supportive of other women who are doing, who are standing on honesty and standing on truth and standing on respect. But I'm not here to gossip and constantly complain and constantly blame men. That's not me. You're going to have to skip over me because I'm not that one. But I will be there for any woman that need my help. But I'm not confused with no women's lib. I am a woman and I will be that woman until the day I die. I will be as strong as I need to be to get through life, but I can never take the role of a male. I ain't confused. I'm not delusional. No matter what I tell myself, I can wake up day after day and I can tell my little brain, Alkaline, you love yourself. You want to be strong, but you can never take the place of a male. That would be crazy. And I'm not crazy. So, with that said, I'm going to jump off of here. Folks, have a good day and thank you for popping in for the broadcast.